What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and in this video I'd like to discuss the very serious prospects that we are in fact still in a bull market, that we are not in a bear market. We're going to use three different charts. We're going to use the Bitcoin USD chart, the others chart, and the Bitcoin dominance chart to help us determine if we are in fact in a bear market or still in a bull market. If that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get into it, my friends. Okay, here we are. Here we are. It is the 18th day of November. We're sitting here at about 93K right now with a nice little reaction off of the low from this week so far. I mean, we look at the 1 hour time frame. We're having a good reaction here. Stock market just opened up. Maybe that's why we're moving up. I don't know. I actually kind of theorized in my Bitcoin video this morning that we have a inverse head and shoulders here, a slanted inverse head and shoulders, and maybe we're breaking out. The breakout target for this inverse head and shoulders would take us back above 94K, just to be clear. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about the short-term stuff. I want to talk about the long-term stuff. If this is a bear market, I'd like to compare notes. I like to compare this bear market to every other bear market we've had in Bitcoin's history and just see if we can come up with a rational conclusion based on that, right? Our last bear market here, and actually let's go to the very beginning. Let's go to the very first bear market that we ever had. Right, we're going over all of them. The very first bear market we had was back here in June of 2011. From a high to a low, we dropped, a tremendous amount. We dropped 93% overall. And as the cycles continue, as each bear market comes along, we see lesser and lesser drops along the way, okay? But the very first instance of a drop from a high to a low within the first 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, we dropped 65% within the first 4 weeks. Now, this was the early days of Bitcoin. We weren't even at $50 yet, right? So a lot of volatility back in the day. That happens. But 65% down, that's a big amount in 4 weeks. High here to the low, 1, 2, 3 weeks later, we dropped 63%, right, in the first 4 weeks. These are the early days of Bitcoin. But again, you see that the drop here is a little bit less significant. As we go to the next cycle, from a high to a low, within the first 4 weeks, 1, 2, 3, 4, well, the low within that first 4 weeks was 45%. We dropped 45% 1 week after we put our high in, right? 63% 3 weeks after, 65% 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after here, 4 weeks after, whatever it was. All greater than 40% drops. We look at the last bull market, the last bear market beginning. We could say here 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks we dropped 27%, but this wasn't the beginning of the bear market. This was just the end of the bull market. We still saw higher highs. The beginning of the bear market was over here. Within the first 4 weeks there, we did drop 39%. Okay, 39% here. As of now, it has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks since the high here. I guess we're on our 7th week, so maybe it hasn't been 7 weeks yet, but we're on our 7th week. We've only dropped just under 30%. So every other cycle before, within the first 4 weeks, within the not 4 weeks and after, within the first 4 weeks, we dropped 40% or more. But this cycle, here we are, almost double that time, almost on our 8th week. After this week, it will be 8 weeks, and we've only dropped 29%. It's a pretty weak start to a bull market. And you might be saying, well, or bear market, I'm sorry. You might be thinking in your head, logically too, might be thinking in your head, well, we had a very weak bull market. Might we have a weak beginning to the bear market? We didn't have a blow off top finish. So yeah, we might have a weak start to this bear market. And that's a fair point. That's a fair point. We didn't have a blow off top finish here either, though. We had a double top. And granted, this finish was a little bit more bullish than this finish, to be completely fair. But a little bit more bullish than that finish does not mean that this should be significantly less bearish here, at least in my opinion, right? We've been moving up here. I would contest this thought that that this was off a double top, and we did move up at a good bit at a steady pace here from July to November. We did move up at a steady pace. I would contest that with saying here from a low to a high, we've been in a bull market longer than any other cycle in history. So might we be overdue for a correction, right? If we were in a bear market. I think we could make up all the excuses we want, but the reality is we've seen almost twice the amount of time that we have in any other bear market beginning. I don't think that we're in the bear market beginning, but if this is a bear market, we've seen twice the amount of time almost, 1 week away from that, and yet we've seen dramatically less of a drop than any other bear market beginning. And again, you could say it's because we don't have a blow-off top. We didn't have a blow-off top back here. We had a double top. You can say, well, this was weaker than this last cycle. Okay, but this cycle is longer and more continuous than the last cycle was in itself, right? So I think that we're overdue. If we are in a bear market, we're overdue for a drop. We're in the longest cycle. We should have a quicker drop than this, is my opinion. We've had a long time to distribute. We should have a quicker drop than this. That's my thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong, right? My thoughts also are that markets where you have this extremely rapid growth in a very short amount of time, they're not built to last. So of course you sell off. Where markets like this that move and then you're very constructive and then you move and you're very constructive and you move and you're very constructive, really this whole time we're just in like a large consolidation phase. I was taught that markets like this are built to last. They're built to last. They're built to continue. If you want a healthy market, this is what it is. So I'd be surprised if I'd be surprised with two things. First and foremost, I'd be surprised here if we were in a bear market. Secondly, I would be surprised if this bear market was anywhere near comparable to any bear markets that we've had before, right? If we're looking at this from a high to a low, we dropped 77% last cycle. That was the smallest drop in a bear market Bitcoin's ever seen. With this start, this very slow start, I would think that we see the smallest bear market that we've ever seen by far. It won't be 77%, it won't be 70%. We'll probably see something less than like a 60% drop, something that won't even take us below these lows here. That'd be my thoughts. Okay, so and that's not fun to think of. We're at 92K now, thinking about prices that are down at $50,000. That's not, or even below 60K. That's not fun. But let's be real. If this is a bear market, this is going to be the weakest bear market we've ever seen, and we likely will recover in a matter of no time at all. By like within the next year, we should be recovering. Because again, comparing every bear market that we've seen, let's do this on a time basis. We've done it on a percentage basis. Let's do it on a time basis now. Every bear market that we've ever seen has lasted, hold on, let me draw this on here. 22 weeks. 59 weeks. This was the end of the bear market. This is the beginning of the bull market. This was a crab market. We weren't in our bear market, still there, right? From a high to a low here. Bear market ended right there, 52 weeks. And then from a high to a low here, time-wise, this one also took about 52 weeks. Okay. Let me see if I can pull this off. Hold on. We'll get rid of the, yeah, we'll get rid of this. 54 weeks, okay? So 54 weeks, 52 weeks, 59 weeks, and 22 weeks. I think it's safe to say that the 22-week bear market was an outlier, but something around, 52 weeks in a year, 59 weeks is a little bit more than a year, 52 weeks right on the money on a year, and 54 weeks a little bit more than a year. I think something around a year or more is what we could expect, right? But again, the thought here being that we've had a very constructive cycle, we're probably going to get a weak bear market. Is it possible that we see something that's even less than 52 weeks? Something in that range. From this high, which is back now in October 6th, 52 weeks from that point would put us, back in, well, it would put us in October 6th. It'd be a whole year later. It would put us in October of 2026, which, give or take a few weeks. Let's say it's 59 weeks. Let's say it's 60 weeks. It's the longest bear market that we've ever seen. We're likely going to have our bear market terminate in the end in Q4 of next year. And again, I would theorize that with the weakest bull market we've ever seen, if this was a bear market, and very clearly I don't think that we are in a bear market, but just trying to take that stance here, if we are in a bear market, we would likely see, I think, less of a bear market timing-wise. There's institutional adoption. I think we'd see less of it, and less of it on a percentage point, right? We'd probably be done with this bear market in Q3 or early Q4 of 2026, which is not encouraging, right? Nobody wants to sit through a bear market for that long. We're in Q4 of 2025 right now. That's a long ways away, but that gives us a lot of time to prepare. I don't think that we're going to get that opportunity to prepare personally. I think that we will recover in a short amount of time and we will move higher, but these are just some thoughts to think about. Whenever we've seen our bear markets before, what does that mean for Bitcoin? Well, what that means is we have less than probably 11 months of bear market to go, if that is the case. And likely we drop, I would think, less than a 60% drop overall. I personally don't think that we drop below these levels. We could, but that's just my thoughts. Because again, of how well constructed this cycle's been, how weak the bull market has been. If we were in a bear market, I would expect a weak bear market too. There's some people who think we've had a weak bull market, so therefore we're going to have a very weak or a very strong bear market. But again, a testament to this, we had a very weak bull market last cycle, and we saw the weakest bear market that we've ever seen. Technically, I was going to say technically it was the longest, but I guess it wasn't the longest, 54 versus 59. Anyways, the Bitcoin charts for me, beyond that, if we're looking at the monthly RSI, they just don't suggest that we're in a bear market yet. Every single cycle we've interacted with this level here, Every single cycle we've interacted with this trend line on this monthly RSI. We haven't done it this cycle. We do have lower lows in our monthly RSI here, lower lows between these points here, lower lows right there, and lower lows there with higher lows in our price. Look up on Google, what does lower lows in the indicator but higher lows in the price mean? Look, literally type that up and it'll say that is hidden bullish divergence. Or it should say that. If it doesn't say that, maybe it's confused, but it's hidden bullish divergence. That marks continuation in an uptrend, which we are still in an uptrend, guys. We still have higher lows throughout this whole pattern and higher highs throughout this whole trend. Yes, we've broken out of a straight diagonal line that you can draw, but that doesn't mean that we've broken out of the uptrend. We still have higher lows and higher highs. We're still very much in an uptrend. The Bitcoin dominance chart is another chart that we can use to identify if we are in a bull market or bear market, I think, just going off of past behavior. Right? When we started the bear market in 2018, it was January 2018, the Bitcoin dominance was all the way down here below 40%. When we started the last bear market in 2021, November, right? Let's see, where's November? Right here. By that time, or maybe December even is for altcoins, whatever, November, December, somewhere in this time frame here, we were also around the 40% level, right? Below 40%, right above 40%. Here, we're all the way up at 60%. And maybe that's a sign that as time continues, Bitcoin will only gain more dominance, altcoins will only gain less relevance. But I'm also thinking here, because things move in cycles, we have cyclicality. It's just a part of our nature. I'm also thinking that no, I don't want to draw this. That from the end here to the beginning of this alt season, that took 155 weeks. From the end here to the beginning of this alt season, which hasn't happened yet, it's been 237 weeks, right? It's dramatically more time than what we saw here. We are at the longest stint in crypto's history without an alt season. That doesn't make me think that we're going to continue. That makes me think that we're at the end of our ropes and that we're overdue for an alt season. Now, who am I to say that? Maybe we do, maybe we don't, but there's a lot of promising aspects of the altcoin markets. And if we look at the others chart, we look at the monthly others chart, this is just not, this to me does not look like a bearish phase of consolidation. We've been consolidating here in this horizontal channel right below our all-time highs, okay? We actually even had a double top here, but we haven't rejected. We're just still consolidating in this range here. If we were in a bear market, or if we were in the beginnings of a bear market, it's going to be a very, very weak bear market. Let's just leave it at that. Because again, we haven't really grown. We haven't seen that spectacular, euphoric blow off top finish that we see in all markets, whether it's the stock markets, whether it's commodities, whether it's altcoins or Bitcoin. It would just be a very odd time to start a bear market, especially with the levels of fear that we have here, right? Some of the highest levels of fear that we've seen, literally the highest levels of fear that we've seen on this indicator since its existence. The 15, that is the highest levels of fears that we've seen since July, June 2023. I'm just not under the impression personally that we are in a bear market. Even if we are, it's going to be pathetic. It's going to be a weak bear market. I don't really have anything else that I want to say. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one, okay? Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.